At first, it was like, oh my gosh, what did I just commit myself to? And then by the end of the year, I had actually written 59 songs instead of 52 because I just got in this rhythm of doing it. And then that just turned into this really life-giving thing. What started as daunting was like, wow, this is actually how I breathe. And it was like taking in oxygen.
Welcome to Created Creative. I'm Dawn.
And I'm Ruth.
Happy birthday!
Oh, thank you.
We recently talked about how you like to have a big deal about your birthday.
I do, so thank you.
What sort of big deals do you like?
I just enjoy people taking time to say happy birthday, and my boys are always good to make a fuss. Jesse sang in church, and that was really nice. It was just a wonderful birthday.
It fell on a Sunday, so you are working.
Yes, yeah. So Pentecost, nice time,
And Memorial Day, which you've been having Memorial Day forever because everyone's dying. But is Memorial Day just about veterans? Or is it all the dead people?
Right. No, Memorial Day is veterans, yes, that served in the military. It's supposed to be. A lot of people go beyond that. But
so all these people dying at your church, were any of them veterans?
Yeah, one of the most recent ones was, and we had the whole taps and the flag folding and everything. But yeah, can I tell you about one of my graveside?
You're laughing at the graveside.
She died in 2014.
What?
So they've just been holding on to the ashes for a while.
For 12 years.
12 years.
The age of a 7th grade child.
Yeah. So they just hadn't gotten around to it yet. But
did they make a decision recently to bury the ashes, or it's always been the plan and no one just got it together until they're like, Ruth Hetland's on the job?
No, I think it was just time. They finally got around to getting the stone, and they finally got around to getting everyone together. Yeah.
I mean, I think I have procrastinated some projects here and there.
But 12 years is pretty
12
pretty
years
good.
to bury your loved one.
Yeah.
Had other people died in the intermission?
Oh, yeah.
Lots of people, of course. But did somebody in the family miss the funeral by waiting 12 years?
No, honestly, I think part of it is it's one of those families where everyone's scattered, and it was hard to find a time when everyone would be back together. And so they had a nice reunion, and she had died far away, and then they had to bring her back too. So that was another thing.
Like on a vacation or just living far away?
No, she had been living far away, but she wanted to come back to Fergus Falls where she was born. So I can honestly totally understand how it took 12 years, but I can't really count her amongst the tally of all my dying people because that was a while ago.
Like, you weren't even an interim pastor when she died, let alone at this church.
Yeah, I wasn't even living in Minnesota yet then. I was still living in Texas then. So a lot has happened since 2014. So anyway, how are you doing?
Good. I am in Spain. More on that later, another episode. But
Yes.
Before leaving, I went to a live meeting. When are there live meetings, first of all?
That's bigger.
A live meeting about Worldschooling, which is similar to homeschooling, but around the world. Some people world school by just taking off and traveling and homeschooling from country to country. This is an organization that has everything ready for you. They're currently in 8 countries, but they're expanding like wild because it's such a good idea. They own apartments. So you just pop into a furnished apartment, and there's a school for 18 months to 14 years old. And it's based on the Finnish-system, which is the best in the world.
Yes.
And they have a co-working space with the very best Wi-Fi and events for the parents. And the timing always lines up with school because everyone's kid is in the same education center.
God. Oh, that sounds so fun.
And it's not in major cities. They're in a smaller town so that you can integrate walkable cities. I'm into that. They're all about building community.
Wow, this sounds right up your alley. So I know you were initially interested in Bali. Were there other countries that kind of caught your interest during the meeting?
Maybe Italy.
Oh,
partly because I think Lucy would eat the food.
Yeah.
Portugal, just their particular setup seems really well done, and it's the most built out in Portugal because they've been expanding quickly, so things are different degrees of setup in different countries.
Yeah.
Japan, not a match right now, just the way it is.
Yeah.
South America seems easy. I'm not particularly drawn to her learning Spanish, but South America is easy just working on the time zones.
I approve of all those because I can come and visit you and live sessions there. That sounds perfectly workable for me. So
Okay, great. So
you
you're
have my
good with any of
blessing.
them?
Yeah, yes. So you have some decisions to think about
Yeah.
as you continue your
One
time in Spain.
consideration, it feels easier to get ready by January than September.
Uh,
They're in 3 months at a time. So you can do September to November. December is its own thing, then January to March. And I didn't want to miss Holy Week by going
Yeah.
January to March.
Yeah.
But they're actually done the Friday before Palm Sunday.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
I don't think it's on purpose or anything, but
Yeah.
it's what it is.
Wow, it's so exciting. I think it sounds perfect. You think that you would do 3 months to start the first one?
I think. I do want to stay connected to my people here, although I will be somewhat connected if we're here all summer. And if we were gone in the fall, there would still be December to come here into Minnesota and be gone again in
Yeah.
January, February, March, and then see what we want to do in the spring.
Yeah. I just think it sounds fabulous. Did
They
you have
do
a good
have
floor?
people that stay with it for years.
Yeah.
And just go from country to country because it is a closed system. Like your kids who are in the numbered grades will have an education that all lines up.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because the different countries are all coordinated with each other. So you can switch
Right.
countries every 3 months and the schooling will line up.
That's so cool.
Mhm.
What a great idea.
So great.
All right. I'm putting my boys back in school.
I
We're
know.
starting. I'm excited for you. I can't wait to hear what you decide.
And maybe it's a whole year away, but I don't know how often they come to New York. So I'm glad I was
Right.
able to catch them and meet some of the
Exactly.
people.
And now you have time to process what would make the most sense for you and
Right.
to see.
And
Yeah.
try out being overseas because we're in Spain.
Yeah, exactly. I know that our listeners will look forward to hearing more about it
Yeah.
next time.
But today we're here to talk about someone we knew 20 years ago who took a 20-year gap from his hobby and then came back and it's not a hobby, it's a vocation.
Yeah, stronger than ever, winning lyric contests and making more and more content all the time lately. So, yeah, I know that people will love listening to this interview with Brian.
So insightful.
Enjoy.
Enjoy.
Hi, Dawn.
Hi, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Welcome. Where in the world are you, Brian?
I am in Fort Wayne, Indiana, of all places in the world.
Fort Wayne.
Yeah, never once in my life would I have thought that would have been where I settled, but here I am. So we've been here 14 years.
Oh,
actually.
you're like in Fort Wayne.
Yeah, my kids have grown up here. My son's about to graduate from high school and go to college. My daughter's a sophomore. It's
Yeah.
home at this point. And where are you?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, excellent. I'm actually really hoping to get out there sometime this year because I have
come.
participated with this songwriting thing at a studio out there. This is just this little mom and pop studio called Wildwood Recording Studio. And
Yeah.
they're in Brooklyn.
Are they near me?
so
I'm looking out the window like I'm going to see it.
I don't even really know where exactly they are. I've seen their address, but
Yeah.
they run like this vintage, cool underground recording studio. One of the owners is a stand-up bass player from Australia, and then her partner, he does a lot of audio and video work on reality TV shows. Like
Okay.
he's worked with Stream Maker for Home Edition and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? Say the name again. I'm going to look them up.
It's called Wildwood Recording Studio.
Because then I'll just accidentally notice it tomorrow.
Right.
You know how that is?
Yep.
It's not right near me, but it's within reason I would be near it.
Yeah. As we begin, Brian, would you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Brian Spahr. I am a singer and a songwriter and an author, and I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Why does one
Wonderful.
move to Fort Wayne, Indiana? You are not a native.
So I support my songwriting, singing, and writing habit by being a pastor.
And you were called there.
That's how I make my living. And so I was called here to a church about 14 years ago and served there for 8.5 years and then left there to work as a hospital chaplain. I decided I was going to go into hospital chaplaincy right before the global pandemic,
Strong move.
which was a good life choice. And then about 2.5 years ago, started a new call at a different church here in Fort Wayne.
And we actually do all know each other from way back. We've met back, oh gosh, it's been a few decades now.
Right.
Through the youth encounter world, we've had a few of our guests have been from the youth encounter world, so we've talked about that before. But let's see, Brian, were you on two teams? Two different teams?
I was on a South Central team that at that point covered most of the southern United States. So we were like Pensacola, Florida, all the way to New Mexico, up to Iowa and everything in between, and the very southern tip of Texas. And then I was also on an East Coast team a couple years later.
And for
Okay.
those just joining us, these are traveling Christian rock cover bands in the 80s and 90s
Hey,
heyday.
don't forget the puppet shows.
And puppet show, all of
right.
it. It was a whole
Yeah.
experience.
It sounds super glamorous until you say you traveled in a beat up old van and did puppet shows every night.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had a teammate in common. Tammy was
Mm.
my teammate, and then she was your teammate.
Yeah, and I got to
So.
see her actually just before Christmas.
Oh,
I
Oh,
went
yay.
out to Fremont, Nebraska, and had lunch with Tammy, and she showed me around her place where she works and runs the show. Yeah, it was great to catch up with her. I love her to death.
Wonderful. Hi to Tammy. If you're going to listen to this, we love you. So, Brian, you're a songwriter from way back. So tell us how you started writing songs.
When I was in college, I started just playing around with songwriting. I really wanted to be in a band, and I had been in an alternative rock cover band in high school and then had never written any songs, and then decided to audition for a band. And one of the requirements of the audition was that we played original music. And so I shared a song that I had written, which meant that I had made it up just before the audition, and it was really not very good, but it was an original song, and that was the start. So that's where it began. And then it just kind of became functional as being part of that band. And then I just continued to write songs, and then ended up, after releasing a couple CDs and things along the way, just took about a 20-year break from songwriting, and everything changed in those 20 years. The big thing, the last record that I did was you had to release a CD. And then by the time I was back to writing again, nothing was the same.
the delivery method changed. Were the styles different as well?
Somewhat. There are styles, I think, that endure for sure. There are the types of music that you associate with different decades. I grew up in the 80s, so, people attribute the 80s to Flock of Seagulls and things like that. But there's also some really great music that was produced in that time. I kind of hover in the acoustic singer-songwriter area, and that stylistically has evolved, certainly with technology plays a big part in the way that people produce songs now, and the elements that are available to people that you wouldn't have had access to otherwise. But I still, at the heart of what I do, is an acoustic guitar and simple vocals and melodies, and I try to focus a lot on lyric writing as well.
And with the break that you took, that long break from writing, was it just life was requiring other things from you during that time?
A little bit. In some ways, it felt like I was writing and just throwing stuff out there and no one was listening. And as much as I don't really consider myself a performer per se, and so I don't need a large audience. But at the same time, there is something about being a songwriter that involves sharing what you do.
Yeah.
And if you're sharing something and it feels like it's just going into this void, then it's really hard to stay motivated. And then on top of that, I got married, had kids, went to grad school, started a church. There was a whole number of things that were happening in life and in the world that it just very much went on the back burner. And I still played music and I still did things like that, but writing was not a regular part of what I did. And I would occasionally try to dabble, but I never could really put my hands on anything that I felt like I wanted to keep going with.
And so then, was it a specific thing that made you jump back in, or just what made you start again?
I was working with a younger artist here in Fort Wayne. She was in high school at the time, and she was really just starting to explore songwriting, and had the opportunity to just kind of come alongside her and mentor a little bit. And then COVID hit. And so every artist that I knew of was doing all kinds of different things to try to make their living. People who had been on the road couldn't be on the road. Even recording changed. Everybody went from going to studios to everything was being done at home. So as a Christmas gift, I had gotten this songwriter a gift of attending this online workshop with a couple songwriters that I really liked. And she was really nervous to go. And so I just said, I'll sign myself up too, and I'll go with you. And we attended online together. And in attending that, it was this spark that just said, I don't want to just help other people write songs. I want to get back to writing songs. And in COVID, we had this extra time to do things that, some people made sourdough, some people learned to knit. I decided I'm going to write a song. And my goal was to write one song and produce it well and put it out. And that's what I did. So I had a buddy who had a home studio and ended up writing this song and got some people to play on it and sang on it and put it out into this world of music that I had no idea how anything worked anymore. And the song's okay. It came out good. But looking back on it, it was like, I can look at it and say, wow, that was the first song I really wrote and completed in 20 years.
Wow.
And it feels that way. But it was also, you have to start somewhere. Just like the first song that I ever wrote for the band that only wanted to do original music, I can look back on it and say, that was not a good song. but you have to start somewhere with creativity. And that was the launching point for me. And I've been tempted to pull things off of Spotify and all that, but I'm thankful that artists that I look up to and respect leave their older work out as well. So that it's like reassuring to know that everybody has gone through a journey to get to where they
Right.
are. And it continues to go through a journey. People evolve.
Yes, that evolution.
Yeah.
It's so tell us what your writing practice looks like now, because it
Yeah.
seems like you're coming out with a lot of work these days.
Yeah. So last year actually was the most productive year I've ever had as a songwriter. And I really decided I had continued to build this practice since releasing the one song. And then I wrote several songs to accompany a book that I put out, and then did some traveling around that book, and it was all centered around grief. And so it was really focused on that, but then didn't end up really recording those songs. It was more just to be part of this traveling liturgy that I had put together. And then last year, I really wanted to commit to, okay, what is my songwriting voice? What is it that I want to focus on as a writer? And I decided that every Monday I'm going to write a song, and whatever state that song is in at the end of Monday before midnight, I have to put it on a public platform, which is
Wow.
my website. I'm not putting it on the streaming services or things like that, but by midnight, the song had to be in a state of completion.
Yeah.
So I actually accomplished that. At first, it was like, oh my gosh, what did I just commit myself to? And then by the end of the year, I had actually written 59 songs instead of 52 songs because I just got in this rhythm of doing it. And then that just turned into this really life-giving thing. What started as daunting was like, wow, this is actually how I breathe. And it was like taking in oxygen. And so Monday is my day off. So I usually will go to a coffee shop or something, and I'll just put on headphones with some ambient noise in the background. And then whether it's to a prompt or just to an idea that I'm having, I'll sit down and I'll work on words first. I always start with words. And then
Words, okay.
and then as I'm writing that, melodies start coming through my head. And then by the time I'm done with that part of the writing, I have a little studio set up in my office where I am now, and come over and start hashing it out. And sometimes I'm here till midnight and post at 11:59, but I set that deadline, and I found that the deadline really helps. And then some things get refined. With writing with such volume, I just found that I really started to discover what my voice is, and that I love telling stories and trying to be descriptive in songwriting in a way that I've never really been able to do in the past. I would just find my lane and I would stay there. Now, I really tried to take the approach of what would a fiction writer who is painting a scene, what are the things, instead of just saying the wind blew on a sky blue day, what are the different metaphors that we can use? And really that launched with a song called Threadbare, that was a song about someone at the end of their life, and it was from the perspective of an old worn out jacket, and just tried to build that metaphor. And then that song ended up published in the March and April issue of American Songwriter, which is the songwriting magazine. And it all just kind of came from this practice. So that's kind of how things have evolved at this point.
Yeah, it sounds like what started as a discipline has really become a life-giving practice for you.
Yeah, and I find so much that's how creativity works. You know, we can make creativity a chore, but like when we're embracing the creative part of ourselves, it really does feel like this is part of us. This is like how the blood flows through my body. This is how my lungs fill up with air. And so it's so life-giving. And I have friends that are in the industry. And one of the things that it feels almost sad to me that the industry sometimes dictates the creativity, and it doesn't feel life-giving anymore because it's so bound to the rules that they have to follow.
Yeah.
And so I've gone on several songwriting retreats, and it's been really helpful to actually sit with people and remind them that we write songs because we love to write songs, and it gives life. And so, yeah, for me, it's just been such a joy to rediscover that part of who I am, because in the 20-year gap, like it really felt like there was a big part of me that was missing. And I feel more like I know who I am now, engaging in this.
I think that's so important. And we hear that so often in talking about creativity, how it has to be done for the love of it. Like we talked to an author who he's up for a Minnesota Book Award and he's had 4 novels out, but yet how he earns his living is through teaching. But he writes every day because he loves it.
And it's interesting that like one of the reasons I stopped was it felt like I was sending stuff out into the void. Nobody was paying attention to anything. And then all of a sudden I'm in a national magazine. All of a sudden.
Yeah. All of a sudden.
Yeah. These overnight successes, so often you look into it and there's 20 years of work behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think there's something to like when you're actually discover what it is that you're trying to say and how you're trying to say it, then people pay attention differently too. And
Yeah.
if you're coming from a really authentic place, then someone is going to resonate with that differently than if you're trying to force something into a package for them to consume.
Yeah.
People can sense it when it's
Yeah,
been forced.
absolutely.
So have you been hearing from a lot of people since that magazine came out? Like, has there been kind of some buzz?
It's in some ways, yes. It's a different kind of validation, but also the magazine has 100,000 person readership. But even still, it's like in the world, that's very small. And so,
Right.
Yeah.
like it's neat to be able to hold a magazine in my hand with Ann Wilson from Heart on the cover. And then I'm in there. And then the feedback that I got is from people like the band Perry, who's really big in country. And some Nashville songwriters were the ones that gave feedback on the song. But at the same time, it's still nobody follows me on social. And my Spotify plays have not increased or anything, which I think is also telling about what are those mediums actually? Are they good for engagement? And for me and the kind of music that I do, engagement is really important. It's not just about listens. There's lots of ways to generate streams. But then if there's no connection, then it's so impersonal. And I think that's part of like looking deeper into like, why would I stop doing something that's so life-giving? And I think it felt like there was no connection. And so I have a really small but faithful group of people who are really interested in what I do. And so I'm working on an EP I just finished up in the studio, and some other musicians are adding their touches to it right now. But I just decided, okay, I'm not going to chase streams. I'm not going to chase, all of these things because really they don't mean anything. But what I am going to do is I'm going to pay attention to the people who are most interested in what's happening through the music that I'm putting out, and then just engage relationally with that. And if we go back to like where we started, like our old youth encounter days, the core of what we did was relational ministry. We would go and we would play music, but really it was about spending time with people. And even just in the passing through towns, it really wasn't even that. It was really the people that we traveled in the van with. But it's like to be in relationship with people in close proximity that you may have a lot in common with or nothing in common with, and understanding the differences in people.
I feel that we're all ready for a mission to the moon.
Right.
From using
right.
that.
Yeah, that would be so great.
Oh, they're in such close proximity for
Yeah,
decades.
that whole thing was so inspiring, just seeing how all that it was a great relief with all of the other things that are happening in the world. But like with art, it's so much about just engagement. How can I have conversations with people? How can I spend time with people? And we have all these ways that we can do that. This is such a great example. We're in 3 completely opposite places on this planet, and we're able to connect in this way, in this space, and it's meaningful. It's not the same as being in the same room, but it's still meaningful engagement. And so that's what I'm pursuing, like with getting ready to release music. And of course it will be on the platforms and everything, but the emphasis will be on how do I just continue to connect with people and then broaden that scope instead of trying to chase the anonymous streams that I can never have a conversation with or never have any kind of interaction or meaningful interaction with.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about your writing process. You talked about going to the coffee shop, but is there a certain time of day that you find you're better at writing than others, or do you just have to do it when you get a chance?
Yeah, I find that I have to get my Monday stuff out of the way first. Like I do our family's grocery shopping, and there's a few things that are just part of my day off routine. And so I have to get all that out of the way first. And then when the responsibilities are done, I can sit down and then just have the freedom to explore as long as I need to. As long as there's something that is chiming in my head that I have a responsibility to do, it's always going to pull away from that creative process. So it typically means like after supper. So really the Monday songwriting, it's about a 6-hour window that I have to get everything done. So,
Way more than some people have in a week. 6
right?
hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, and I try to do it in less than that, but it is a gift to be able to set aside that time. And it's become a really important part of my rhythm.
The 20 years when you weren't doing this, I'm curious what you may have wished somebody would have said to you. Could we say that to the person who is listening and is in that 20 years for them? They did something, maybe someday they'll have time again. They're not sure.
Yeah. Looking back on that, I think if I was to tell myself, other people might need to hear other things, but if I was to tell myself, I actually did have time.
Ooh, wow.
And I look at the amount of time that even still, like that I spend or spent doing on things that bear no fruit. And it's not all about producing something, but it's about how I feel in my body and my soul and my spirit when I engage in certain types of activities.
Right.
So the amount of time that I've spent doing draining activities.
Like Facebook or what?
Yeah, like Facebook, like binge watching TV shows.
Oh, yeah,
just
getting through a whole
different
series.
things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, why?
There's so many different things like that.
It's been so great to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking time to speak with us. You're right up our alley as far as how you feel about creativity, just how important it is, how life-giving it is. And so appreciate you very much.
Thank you for joining us for Creative.
In the show notes, there's links to our Patreon, and we do invite you to support us in that way and go create something.
Go create something.